Welcome to Healing Synergies podcast, a podcast that's geared towards parents and caregivers on issues pertaining to children with special needs, sensory processing, and other pediatric conditions. I'm Dr. Kavitha, I'm a pediatric occupational therapist and the founder for Healing Synergy, and we are based out here in North Carolina. If you've not done so already, could you please click the like button if you like the topics that we discuss, and follow us on Facebook and Instagram for more information on different topic areas. Today we have Dr. Megan Collins from the University of Winston, Salem State, and who will be discussing with us the topic on assistive devices for children. Good morning, Dr. Megan.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yes, indeed. Could you tell us a little bit about your journey into occupational therapy?
Absolutely. I kind of knew from a pretty young age that I wanted to be some kind of therapist. I was more familiar with physical therapy, but then I was a hospital volunteer, candy striper, if you want to use that old term. Starting the summer, I went into 8th grade, all the way until I graduated through high school in the outpatient rehabilitation department. And I kind of was exposed to physical and occupational therapy and just fell in love with occupational therapy and the focus that it has on helping enhance the quality of life and the ability for people to engage in those daily desired and needed occupations, daily activities. And then I had leg surgery myself in high school, had lots of physical therapy, and that just kind of reinforced love my physical therapy colleagues, but that just reinforced my desire to be an occupational therapist.
That's so awesome. It's always so interesting to ask the speakers, like their journey into it. It's always really interesting how they found their way into OT.
Yes, absolutely, for a wide variety of reasons. That's always exciting to hear. Yeah.
So, on the topic of assistive devices for children, tell us, I know you're the expert in this area, and so please share with us information that you have for our families.
Okay. Well, I created a PowerPoint with that I will share with you so everybody can have access to it. So assistive technology is a topic I am very passionate about. And to be quite frank, I kind of really began to focus on it, learn more about it when I began teaching at Winston-Salem State University, including teaching the assistive technology class, and did a lot of research on it and have lots of guest speakers and field trips. And I was just so excited about what's out there. So I'm very excited to share it with everyone today.
Thank you.
So I'm going to define what assistive technology is and the role that it has in occupational therapy, and then go through some assistive technology options. And please keep in mind, I'm not endorsing any products today, and it's really just to show you some of the options that are out there. And then we'll go over just some general considerations for looking at assistive technology devices, the importance of collaboration and who you might collaborate with, and then just a few resources that I hope you find helpful. So I want to define assistive technology using the TACT Act definition, which is what you will most commonly hear used to define assistive technology. It's defined as any item, piece of equipment, or product system, whether acquired commercially off the shelf, modified, or customized, that is used to increase, maintain, or improve functional capabilities of individuals with disabilities. And the first thing that I want to point out is this is very broad. It can be something that you get off the shelf, at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, that, the general public may use. It could be something that you find off the shelf, but that you modify it a little bit, or it could be something that's customized for a particular individual. And I do also want to point out, and I always talk with my students about this, it says, increase the functional abilities, increase, maintain, or improve functional capabilities of those with disabilities. I would argue assistive technology helps everybody. I don't know about you, but I've used my smartphone a lot today already, and there's, a lot that you can do with that, for example. So I think assistive technology benefits everybody, not just those who may have special needs. Reminders and apps, and couldn't do it without it. And then the Tech Act also describes assistive technology service, and that's equally as important. That's where you help the process of selecting a piece of device, acquiring it, and then learning how to use it and maintain it, which is very important as well. And occupational therapy, we help people across the lifespan learn or relearn the skills that they need to do those daily activities that they enjoy, need to do, want to do, have to do. Assuming their goal is to be independent, to be as independent as possible. So it's very client-centered. So we really take a holistic look at the person and to see how we can best help support them and achieve their goals. And assistive technology can be one way to help clients of all ages achieve their goals.
Right.
So some options, I'm just going to go over the variety of areas that occupational therapy practitioners look at, and then I will show some assistive technology that can help in these areas. So we call activities of daily living, things like dressing, bathing, grooming, toileting, eating, mobility. There's instrumental activities of daily living, which could include, and these are just brief examples, trying to gear them towards the pediatric population. That could include caring for pets, cooking, cleaning, driving, shopping, money management. All that would fall under instrumental activities of daily living.
I love how you added the care of pets here.
As somebody that has 2 cats, which I hope you don't hear today, that's very important.
I know. I mean, that's awesome because a lot of our families also have pets, you know, like when I go for therapy, they're always around, and getting the kids to be able to assist too would be wonderful. Yeah.
Thank you. And please remind me when I go over some options for funding about something that one of my students made for pets.
Okay, awesome.
And then another area is health management, which can include medication management, healthcare visits, healthy eating, physical activity, things like that. Education, which includes exploring education options as well as engaging in educational pursuits. Work, which again would include exploring work opportunities as well as completing work tasks, as well as retirement.
Yeah.
And then leisure play, both exploring those leisure play opportunities as well as engaging in them. Social interaction with friends, family, people in the community. And then the all-important rest and sleep. Preparing for sleep, actual sleeping, things like that. So there's definitely some things that we can do to help enhance that.
I'd love to just add to this. I know parents who haven't slept for 3 years, because of sensory dysregulation with the kids, the difficulties with that, and it's, people don't think about it, but it's very welcomed, because, yeah, for the child and for the parents.
It is. And we always talk about having a balance between all of these. And I think you definitely need adequate rest and sleep to be able to successfully engage in these other areas, for sure. So I have this document here that I'm going to go through, and again, I will make this available so it can be posted. So some adaptive equipment, I tried to keep it organized by the general areas. One overall piece of adaptive equipment is Dysum, and you can see a picture of it here. It's can be a variety of colors. It's sticky, so you can put it, on the kitchen table and put a bowl, plate, things like that on it, and it prevents what you have on it from moving around. So that could be used for a variety of activities that the person may be engaging in.
Right.
This is a head pointer. It's just one way that a person, depending on their abilities, needs, desires, may be able to access a variety of devices. Maybe it's a tablet or a touchscreen, laptop, TV, what have you. And this is kind of an old-fashioned one. There's all sorts of options available that you could purchase or make.
Right.
A reacher can be very good for picking things up off the floor, picking things up out of cupboards, assuming it's not too heavy, of course. But then you can use it for other things as well, like getting dressed or undressed. You can hook your pants, underwear, boxers in there, and then lower to the floor, holding on to the handle of the reacher, and then use it to pull up the pants, underwear, whatever it is you're doing until you can reach it.
Right.
Also helpful for pulling socks and things like that off. Foam, you may not be able to tell here. You can get foam of all different, diameter sizes. You can cut it to what you need, and you can put it over a utensil, like a fork, knife, spoon, a pen, pencil, a toothbrush, anything along those lines, and the foam can make it a little bit bigger, a little easier to hold and manage.
Right. That's a friend for OTs, the foam.
Yes, yes, it is, because it can be so
friend.
widely used, relatively cheap. You can cut it to the size you need.
Right.
Universal cuffs. If somebody isn't able to perhaps grasp something, you can get different kinds of cuffs, and there's little slits in them where you could put a fork, pen, toothbrush, things like that, so the person doesn't really have to grasp it. All sorts of different kinds of openers, that you can use. There's this grip it bottle opener, just again to give you better traction and make it a little easier to open up a container. This is a universal grip turner that you can use on, like what you see here, a stove. So you don't have to grasp the handle, the knobs of the stove. All different kinds of doorknob extensions and turners. Again, these are just a few examples of some things we have in the department. You can do a quick online search and find all sorts of options. Here are some more different types of jar openers. This one is a handheld one. The one kind of in the box, you can kind of screw under the counter. So you just put the container trying to open, the jar you're trying to open up under there. Makes it easier to hold. For some opening bottles and cooking kind of things, you can get different kind of bottle openers that have perhaps wider handles that have a no slick material. So if it gets a little wet, it still won't slip and slide on you.
Nice.
There's an example of a bottle opener and a peeler. And then for actual eating, you can get utensils that are weighted, that are heavier, just to make it perhaps easier for the child to hold, or if they have tremors, for example, that can sometimes help.
Yeah.
These are just built up utensils, so they're not necessarily heavier, but they have a wider handle, again, make it easier to hold. This is a steady spoon, which has a kind of weight on the end. And as the person, and you put the cuff kind of over the hand, and as they bring the soup or cereal to their mouth, the weight will help kind of keep it steady.
So it's more for stabilizing.
More for stabilizing. And I will say on the more high-tech end, there's something called liftware. That is more of a battery, I think it's battery operated device that helps with the setting of the tremors, or you can get curved ends for the utensils to help bring it to the mouth a little easier.
Okay. I think I've seen it on Facebook.
Yes. And I can maybe add that to this. I'm just actually, why don't I just I can show up right now. I hope this is okay. I'm doing this. I'm just thinking of it. This where I think it's speedy. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So there's all sorts of different products. The liftware steady, the liftware level that can, for people that have limited hand or arm mobility, including those who may have cerebral palsy or spinal cord injury, things like that. So I will add that to this list before I send it to you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes. A rocker knife. So this enables somebody that may have just the use of one hand to, cut their meat, the vegetable, what have you.
Right.
There's all sorts of adapted plates that you can get. So this is kind of a raised plate. This is a sectioned plate, and the user can kind of use the raised lids to scrape the food up a little bit. And then this is a plate guard, which there's little prongs that you can put around any kind of plate. And again, you can use it to kind of help scoop the food up. And then there's all sorts of different kind of adaptive cups. There's some pictures here, with a variety of handles that you can use to make it easier to use. There's also many cups that have a cutout in them, just to make it easier so the person doesn't have to tilt their head back as much.
Right. We use it a lot for the feeding training as well for kids who can overspill. Yeah.
Gotcha. And this is a company called Easy Fun, I think it's called.
Okay.
And I found these at the American OT Association conference.
Oh, nice.
So you have, and they have
Nice
different
box.
sizes,
Oh,
different
yeah.
sizes of all that. Tiny spoons,
Oh, nice. And
tiny
the cups. Tiny cups.
cups, and then plates. And again, I have another one that I'll show, but they have all different kinds of options based on, the age of the person
Mhm.
and their abilities. It's another one.
Oh, that is adorable. Yeah.
And what's nice, you would have some kind of suction things on the bottom that will keep it to the table.
Yeah.
So it's
Mhm.
not going to slip and slide. And then this is just to show you bigger one.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
in one.
So
The Dyson and the plate. Nice.
Yeah. So all sorts of options. And it's easypzco.com.
Awesome.
So, yep. So some feeding options there. Sorry, trying to get myself organized here.
No, that's awesome.
And then for individuals that may be blind, that would like or have visual impairments, that would like to pour themselves a drink of water or juice or what have you, you can get a liquid indicator. So you can see the orange part of the liquid indicator. You put a battery in it, and then you put it in the edge of the cup, mug, or if you're filling a pitcher of water, whatever it may be. And when it gets to the liquid gets to the sensor, it will emit a rather loud noise.
Okay.
So you know that you have reached, the top of the pitcher, the cup, what have you.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Is it fairly reasonably priced?
Yeah. I don't think it's too bad. I'm
Okay.
not sure offhand, but I don't think it's too expensive.
I've never thought about that. When someone's pouring, you don't,
Mhm.
if you're visually impaired, you can't really tell. That's awesome.
Yeah. So lots of great options there. For grooming kind of things. If somebody is wearing dentures, you can get suction cups that have kind of a brush on the top that enables you to kind of brush the dentures with just one hand.
Okay.
This is also another kind of denture brush with suction cups that you could use, for nails too, to kind of
Nice.
clean your nails up. There's all sorts of different kind of adapted toothbrushes. This is just one example that has kind of a built-up handle. Again, that foam I showed earlier, you could also put over the toothbrush. Same thing with the razor. It's a razor with kind of adapted larger handle.
Right.
This is a multi-purpose grip. So one end holds the nail file, while the other end can hold a razor or toothbrush.
Okay.
And then this is called the Toe Easy. I just kind of want to show a wide variety of things. It's a very long, nail file that you could use to kind of file down your toenails, for example, without having to bend down.
Okay. So you hold it from the top and you go down like that,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Crossing a leg. Okay.
Nail clipper holder. So you can see basically it's just a piece of plastic that's on some suction cups with a nail clipper glued down to make it a little easier to do your nails. And I will say one of the assignments I have students do is make a adapted device out of things that they have at home. And many students have made something very similar that works just as well as this with a block of wood, for example.
Nice.
This is a hair washer. So you can put the shampoo, conditioner, what have you, and the brush on there, and you can see it's on a long handle, so you don't have to reach back as much for washing your hair. A long handled sponge. You can, get your back. It's very nice for your back, but also you can get your lower legs and feet without having to bend down as much.
Right.
And you can also, get ones that like a loofah that's on a long handle as well. Same idea.
Right.
This is a long handled body washer where you can put the soap on that and you don't have to bend down quite as far. For combing your hair, a comb that's on a long handle. So again, you don't have to reach back as far.
Right.
Or you can get adapted hairbrush that has, a built up handle. And again, foam could work just as well. For people that may need to, kind of inspect perhaps the skin on their bottom, this is largely used for individuals that may have a spinal cord injury. So it's called a quad inspection mirror. But this is on kind of a bendable handle, so you can bend it. And there's 2 different handles that you could use to kind of help you see the skin on your bottom to make sure, that you don't have any sores, or I guess, if you've cleaned thoroughly after going to the bathroom, what have you. For getting dressed, there's a dressing stick that has 2 different kind of hooks that you can use for a variety of things, including like putting on a cardigan or a dress shirt, blouse kind of thing, for example, without having to reach back as far. I've also heard many people use it for, getting hangers out of the closet.
Right.
And the hook on the other end can be used for a variety of things as well, including, zippers, things like that.
Nice.
Speaking of zippers, this is a button hook, which one end has a little hook that you can use, to pull up zippers a little easier. And then this end is a button hook, where you put it through the hole of a button and through to the actual button, and you can button it theoretically using one hand. I will say it takes some practice, but once you get it, it's pretty helpful.
Easier.
Yeah. So if somebody has use of one hand, or if their coordination is decreased, that may help. The pant clip. Have you ever seen these?
I have never seen those.
So these are kind of fun. Basically, they are 2 almost like chip clips on a string. And they really help with pulling your pants up when you're getting dressed or after going to the bathroom.
Oh, nice.
You kind of put one clip on your shirt, and then the other hand on your pants, and you can adjust the length of it. So basically, when you stand up, they're not going to fall all the way to the ground, so you don't have to bend all the way down.
Very smart.
Yeah, yes. And then sakes. There's all different kinds of sakes. This is a hard plastic one, and this is more of a cloth one, where you put the sock on over it, over the end part here, and then holding onto the handles, you can drop it to the floor and then pull it up. And that helps get your socks on without having to bend all the way. Long-handled shoehorn, good for putting on your shoes. You use it just like a regular shoehorn, but it's just on a long handle. So again, you don't have to bend down as far. Shoelaces. You can take the regular shoelaces out of a shoe and then put these elastic ones in, just like regular shoelaces, tie them, and then they kind of become slip-on shoes.
Nice.
Where you don't have to worry about tying or untying them. And you can get them all different lengths, colors. Some are more those like squiggly kind of things at the end.
I've seen those, yeah.
So those can be very helpful. Some people love them. Some people say they don't work very well. But
it's worth trying out.
It's worth trying out, I would say. Yeah, absolutely. And of course, there's, Velcro shoes as well.
Right. But you know what? Definitely kids kids and adolescents would like to be in their, sport shoes or track shoes. And instead of having to tie, tying knots, which can be an issue for them, this would be great.
Yes. Yeah. And then for, sitting up in bed, there are things like this bed ladder rope, that this part goes around the frame of the bed. And then when the person is going to sit up, they kind of use the rungs to gradually go from lying down in bed to sitting up.
Nice.
For getting in and out of bed as well, there's things like a leg lifter. This is almost like an invisible dog leash. This is a loose handle. This is a rigid portion. You put your foot through that rigid portion, and then if you have weakness in your legs, for example, you can put your foot in that rigid part and then hold on to the other end and use your arm strength to get your leg in and out of bed and out of the car, whatever it may be.
That's interesting that you said also in the car, which is great. Yeah.
Yep. And speaking of the car, for getting in and out of the car, there's a couple different options, some of which are shown here. You can get a car caddy that goes over the door frame. And this handle will kind of hang down, and you can use it to help lower yourself in and get then up to get out of the car and out of the car. This is the one I like a little better. It's the handy bar. If you look at a car, there's a little kind of hook in the frame, and this part goes in that. Some of them have blades on the end that you can use to crack the windshield or the windows if you're in an accident.
Okay.
This is a seatbelt cutter. Again, if you're in an accident, need to get out of your seatbelt, you can use that blade. With all these, any of the devices I'm talking about, there's pros and cons that you definitely need to consider. So for this one, the car caddy, you just need to make sure that the car door doesn't slam on you when you're pulling yourself up and down. This one, obviously, you need to take it in and out. You know, when you're in the car, you can't have the car door shut with this in. So storage becomes very important. You want to make sure, you know, if you do have to slam on the brake suddenly, you know, that's not going to come flying and hit you.
Right. Okay.
For reaching the seatbelt, if somebody's having trouble reaching back, you can get a seatbelt extender. So this part goes over the seatbelt, and then the handle points towards the person. So all they have to do is reach for the handle instead of all the way back.
Nice.
And speaking of seatbelts, this is not in there, but this would be more for individuals that may perhaps have trouble unbuckling car seats. There's these unbuckle me's that you can put over the car seat when you're getting in and out, and it just requires just a little bit of pressure.
Okay, nice.
To unhook it. Yep.
That's awesome.
There's all sorts of different kind of key holders for somebody that may be trying to hold keys. So the key just kind of goes in there, makes it a little easier to hold. For opening gas tanks, there's this gas tank opener, and each side can kind of accommodate different style gas tanks.
Nice.
Full confession, my current car, I don't need to screw a gas tank, but my previous car, I tried this on and it wasn't the easiest, but that is an option.
Okay. At least there is something out there.
Yes. Yeah. And while I'm thinking of it, there are professionals called certified drivers rehabilitation specialists, and they can work with individuals across lifespan. So perhaps, you know, the teen that would like to drive, that may have some different needs or there's concerns, they can do an evaluation, do some things, you know, pen and paper kind of things, as well as behind the wheel. To determine the person's safety, ability to drive. And there's all sorts of different technology that can be used to help somebody drive with all different abilities.
How would they source somebody out who is
So there are, if you Google certified driver's rehabilitation specialist, you should be able to find some local hospitals and things like that. You know, may have some driving programs. And if you go to the ADED website, and again, I can add these to the list, which the ADED stands for the Association for Drivers Rehabilitation Specialists. You can find a provider.
Okay. Well, that's very useful.
Yeah. And it's amazing what's available for physical impairments, including visual impairments, all sorts of options. So, and then moving into kind of education and perhaps leisure for writing, there's weighted pen and pencil holders, all kinds of pencil grips. This is, I may be mispronouncing it, the Wenchik writer, where the pen, pencil would go on there, and this would kind of go around the person's wrist so they don't have to hold it. These are actually learned about this from one of my clients. Off of Amazon, just use pencil weights, and you can see there's some O-rings that you can use to put it on all different kind sizes of pens, pencils. We
use that a lot in schools as well for the kids. Yeah.
Yes.
That's great.
And then there's slant boards, sorry, correcting my typo there, that you can get all different kinds. You know, and sometimes just writing kind of at that on a raised surface, angled surface can make
Sure.
the writing a little bit neater. I know
Yeah.
this from personal experience. And one thing I actually, when I was going into college, my mother had me evaluated by an OT.
Oh, okay.
She saw an ad in the paper, and it was more for K through 12, but
Right.
the OT saw me, and one thing she recommended that has been very helpful is just taking, a 3-ring binder
Right.
and putting on its side and writing on that as well.
Yeah.
So all
Awesome.
sorts of options there.
Nice.
For individuals with visual impairments, I know some of this is kind of becoming obsolete with our daily lives now.
Right.
But filling out an envelope,
Perfect.
there's an envelope writing guide that you can see there kind of grooves that tell you where to put, the person's name, the street address, city, zip code for the person you're mailing it to, as well as yours.
Nice.
Same thing with check writing guides. It kind of has different grooves for the various parts of a check. For those of us that still write checks every now and then.
Nice.
And then a signature writing guide, which you can use on anything, and just put it over where you need to sign, and you can kind of just sign, use the guide kind of right
So this
inside.
seems really portable, so you can put it in your wallet or something. Mhm.
Yes, particularly that signature writing guide.
Right.
Very portable. Yeah. Checkbook, if you're still keeping track of your checkbook, as we
Right.
should. I don't do it like I should. This is just your standard checkbook, but large print,
Okay.
so it's easier to see. There's low vision writing paper where the lines are, bolder and perhaps a
Right.
little farther spaced apart. And there's all different kinds of adaptive writing paper, that may have different colors. I
Right.
know I remember seeing some like that's blue, is it white, and then
The lower part is a different
the lower
color.
part is like
Yeah.
brown for the different parts of the letter. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can
Mhm.
kind of use that to guide where you might start and end a letter.
And sometimes it's also raised so they can feel it. Yeah.
Yes, you can get raised toilet paper, raised paper as well.
Yeah.
And then for more higher level technology, you can get all different kinds of adapted keyboards, some which are shown here, where it's spaced out for perhaps ergonomic purposes. The keys may be larger or different colors to make it easier to see.
Right.
You for like consonants versus vowels,
Right.
things like that,
Yeah.
different colors. So all different options there. There's some keyboards that can be used by individuals that may just have the use of one hand.
Mhm.
So all sorts of options there. And then you can also get, guards to put over the keyboard that may help ensure that you're not accidentally hitting keys
Right.
that you're not intending to. And then same thing with, computer mice, all sorts of different mice that you can get, different sizes,
Yeah.
styles. Yes. And again, for example, this is an ergonomic one. I purchased one. I took some getting used to on it, but it's been helpful for me just to help maintain a more comfortable position on the mouse, using a mouse since I'm using it a lot.
And you know what? You bring up a really good point, because I think, especially when kids are going to school, they're all using the laptops right now.
Yes. Yeah.
And just older adults, you'll see more with the carpal tunnel issues
Right.
that we have, because ergonomically it's not sound. But I don't know about children yet, but I'm thinking that whole wear and tear, because they use a lot of times and then they go off to play computer games after that.
Absolutely. And you can see some of the things that I pulled up have been for like gaming devices too. So
Right.
yeah. And then, laptops, desktops, tablets, smartphones. I just encourage everybody to explore the accessibility settings that are already built into the system.
That's true.
They can help with visual impairments. You can make the mouse a little larger or smaller, or you can't tell if you can tell mine is pink.
Right.
Just make it easier to see, and I like pink.
Right.
and you can adjust the colors and contrast and things like that, just to make things easier to see, as well as the sensitivity to things like the mouse. So, if somebody has tremors or decreased coordination, they're not, accidentally setting things off that
Right.
they're not intending to. So I just encourage you to evaluate that. And if you kind of go to the search button and look at, accessibility settings. Well, actually,
And like the voice function on Word, it just makes your life a lot easier too. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
So if you go into some of these options, depending on the system you're using, it will have something like accessibility, things like that you can use.
But I know what you're talking about. There are so many more built-in devices now to
Yeah.
kind of assist.
Yeah. And excuse me, ease of access. Hello.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is all sorts of ways that you can adjust it. And to your point, speech recognition and things like that. And I'm glad you brought that up, because as well, things like, I know a lot of people may use Google.
Mhm.
There's like a feature in Google where you can have it transcribe for you as well.
Okay.
So all sorts of options there depending on the system that you're using.
Right. And like you said, the visuals as well to make it larger, the different lighting systems,
Contrast.
yeah, it's awesome.
And same
Because
thing.
a lot of the tests I know in schools now that they have, like the main tests are done on the computer system,
Yes.
and for some kids it's too bright, because you can train them on paper, but then I've had one kid come back and the mom was like, he's not doing well. We're not sure why. I finally asked him like why. He said it's just too bright. It's too much. Yeah. So just adaptations for that. Yeah.
And you can, all this, can be done too on computer tablets, smartphones. Again, depending on the operating system you're using, the specific device, it'll look a little different, but there's all sorts of options. And again, that could include, kind of just to your point too, you could switch, this to be, black background and white font, or, other colors, depending on what works best for that individual.
And you can kind of try it out with them to see what is easiest, because he fatigued, just looking. And then he fatigued and then lost interest. And he was actually, I don't think he did very well on the test, but it was not because he didn't know. It was because he just got tired, his eyes got tired. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And of course too, where you can have the computer, read what's on the screen as well.
Right.
So you can find those in some of the ease of access accessibility settings.
Nice.
Raised dots are wonderful. You could put them on a variety of things just so the person can, use their sense of touch to figure out where something might be based on the different, shape that it might be. Maybe if the person is using the stove or the microwave, you put a dot and they know that that's, the one for like a one, if they want to heat something up for 1 minute, or, the mid heat for on the stove, for example. Or you can put it on, spices. So, the circle means it's salt and the square is pepper, or whatever it may be. And at one of the resources I'll tell you about in a little bit, I learned this too, rubber bands as well. You can put one rubber band around something for salt, two for pepper, or whatever it may be.
That's so resourceful.
In common everyday things.
Right.
Yeah. And to be quite frank, that's a technique that I use. I mentioned I have 2 cats. My 2 cats get different medicine, and it was my husband's idea. I put a rubber band around one because they're the same shape, size, and it makes it a lot easier for me to say, oh, that goes with this one.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So all sorts of options.
Nice.
For medication management, pill boxes. You can get fairly basic pill boxes like you see here that you may set up for the week, or even one that's just one strip, for the day. But they can become much more advanced where they're like electronically dispensed, and, others can be connected to the system to see, if you've taken them, things like that. And of course, various apps on smartphones, computers, whatever, can be used to help remind you to take them as well.
Nice.
This is a magnet guide for things like insulin. If somebody's taking insulin, has visual impairments, this kind of goes over the vial, so you and magnifies it, so it's a little bit easier to see, how much you're getting. For watches, you can get a Braille watch. So again, somebody with visual impairment can use, their touch Braille to tell what time it is.
Yeah.
This is a picture of a low vision alarm clock, again, where it may be a larger display, and it may have audio as well, saying it's 7:10 a.m. or whatever it may be.
Nice.
Low vision ruler that has Braille, and also the numbers are larger as well. A talking calculator that will let you know what numbers you're pushing and read the display.
Right.
This is a witch needle threader for anybody that enjoys sewing, that may have a visual impairment or decreased coordination. It helps you thread a needle.
Okay. I have to confess that is one of the parts that makes it's very challenging sometimes, depending on how big the hole is.
Yes. Yes. This is one thing that you may find helpful.
Yeah.
This is raised dice that basically has Braille on the dice for people that want to play games that involve dice. For those card lovers, you can get cards that have Braille on them. You can get automatic card shufflers where you put it in, hit the button, and it'll shuffle the cards. Yep. For holding cards, there's all different kind of card holders. A wooden block, like you see here, you just hit the cards in, a little plastic disc that you can slide them in.
Nice.
For people that love to read, there's book holders where you can put the book in. And I just find this one very interesting. These are bed specs. If you're like me and love to read in bed before you go to bed, you put these on and you still look straight ahead, but it will show you what's down here. So you're not having to kind of crank your neck. It's very disorienting at first, but I think they're really, really helpful. Yeah. Yep. And then for cutting, if you're doing a craft project or project for school, loop scissors can be used. They are easier to hold and require less force than traditional scissors to cut. And then there's also this is more for helping train somebody to use scissors. There's dual control training scissors, where you, the person helping the individual, put your fingers in the holes closest, and then they put their fingers in the holes outside, and you can kind of help guide them. So they kind of get a feel of what it's like to use the scissors. And then for those who may have visual impairments, or really, I think some of these things are good for everybody, all different kinds of magnifiers. And what's nice about this one, you mentioned portability before. This is a portable one where you put, it's on almost like a little stand, and then you put what you're trying to look at underneath it. This is called a portable neck magnifier. That it's around my neck, and so I just have to look down. I'm not having to hold it. There's all kinds of different illuminated magnifiers that may have a light inside it to help you see better. And again, there's all sorts of options with that, as well as big, devices where almost like the size of a computer, if not bigger, that you can put whole sheets of paper under and adjust the contrast and size of things.
Can I ask you about the portable one? So that is like, for example, if you're reading a menu or something, so that goes like right under?
Yeah, and you can adjust the length of it. So I probably could have it a little higher, again, depending on what you're reading. Yeah.
Okay.
For bathing, there's handheld showers that can make it real easy, to pull down the handheld part and rinse off where you are trying to wash and rinse off. Grab bars, you can have some that connect to the side of the tub, or you can put them, throughout the tub, mainly where you're getting in and out, and perhaps on the side. Again, it'll depend on the size of your tub and your specific needs. These are very, I'll say, sterile, medical looking. You can get all kinds of decorative ones if that's something that's important to you. I just want to stress, don't use traditional towel racks, things like that, because they will pull off.
Mhm.
This is a bedside commode. This one doesn't have a bucket under it, but what's nice about that, you could put it by your bed or wherever you may would like to have it. And it has handles there that you can hold on to help you get up and down, and just very convenient. I mentioned I had leg surgery in high school. I had for a little while a hospital bed and a bedside commode right there. And I remember moving it all around the house where it was.
Right.
You could also put it over, some of them over a toilet. You would put the toilet seat up and put the commode over the toilet. You would have the bars to help you
Mhm.
get on and off, and the seat would be a little heavier, a little higher, excuse me. Yeah, and you would take the bucket out in that case.
Right.
You can get elevated toilet seats, and you can see that on display here. You want to make sure that's secure, not going to slip and slide around you, but it will make it a little easier. You don't have to bend down as far or go down as far to get on and off the toilet. And nowadays there are what's called comfort height toilets, where the actual whole toilet is higher.
Okay.
And then you can get toilet seat frames. The frame would be a little bit more forward than what's displayed here, but it's kind of secured into the wall.
Mhm.
And again, to help you get up and down.
Nice.
And then I'm going to show a few more bathing things on this next website, which looks at mobility devices. There's all kinds of different mobility devices, canes, walkers, wheelchairs, things like that, to best meet the needs of the individual. And I wanted to point out here too, all different kinds of strollers that may be helpful to help, the family that may have a child that needs perhaps some cushioning, support, all that, to be safe in the stroller. And some of them they're all really neat. It's amazing what's out there to best meet, your needs. And individuals themselves who may have different abilities that are caring for a child may find them helpful as well.
Right.
And you can see there's adaptive bikes as well. So all sorts of great options that you can see here.
Nice.
And I wanted to point out some other bathroom things. You can get seats for the shower. I thought I had them on here. I apologize, must not have. But chairs for the shower that the person can sit in. Benches that go outside the shower where the person can just sit on the edge and then scoot in. So they're kind of inside and outside the shower. And then all sorts of things, for the pediatric population that you can see some for toileting too, that can help with transferring and supporting, in particular the child when they're in the bath. So all sorts of options there that I encourage you to explore. Okay. And I also wanted to point out all sorts of activity chairs that could be used at home, in the school, so the child can engage, in their educational leisure activities with their peers and family.
Right.
For those who have perhaps hearing impairments, of course, there's all different kinds of hearing aids that can be helpful, in all different kinds of shapes and colors and all that to make them fun. And then there's different kind of sound systems as well, portable ones, sound systems that can be connected in a classroom, things like that. So I encourage you to perhaps explore those with, an audiologist, ENT.
Right.
All sorts of options there. And then sleeping. There's all different kinds of adaptive beds and rails that you can get, perhaps the bed, like a hospital bed situation where, you can raise and lower different parts of the bed to make it easier. Rails that may go the full length of the bed, or rails that may just go on the edge of one part of the bed to make it easier for the person to get in and out of bed.
Right.
All sorts of different kinds of cushions and supports that you can use for the bed to optimize the person's rest and sleep.
Can I ask you, what's this dream pad pillow?
I'm glad you asked. I'm going to pull it up. I actually went to a continuing education class on this years ago. It's basically it has, the one I have has an iPad. I think they're more, not iPad, iPod. That tells you how old it is. But it has different sound systems in there that help, it plays music and it helps optimize sleep.
Nice.
So yeah, it helps naturally. It's based on the natural conductivity of the human body, and so you play music, and it has a calming effect and helps activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps kind of decrease stress and
Very nice.
all that stuff. So
That's
full
pretty cool.
confession, they're not cheap, but something that you could look into.
You know why? Because sometimes the kids are sharing a room with others, or I think it's right there, so they're gonna just hear it. Is it
Yeah.
loud? Have you tried it? Have you used it?
I have tried it, and yeah, the sound system is right in the pillow. You can adjust the volume.
Okay.
So yeah, it probably wouldn't really disturb
The
anybody
others
else,
around.
again, depending on how loud you have it.
Right.
Yeah,
No, that would be awesome. That's
yeah, all sorts
really
of
great.
options there. And then again, with technology today, smartwatches, computer tablets, smartphones, all sorts of options there, including various apps that are available. Maybe somebody has to, shift their weight every hour or so. You can have reminders for that. There's apps, and again, I'm not promoting anything, but apps like Dexteria that can help work on coordination, for example, or Lumosity, which helps with, your memory, cognition, things like that. All sorts of things like that can really be helpful as reminders, or to help you work, to help address some of the skills that you may need to work on, as well as with all kinds of smart devices today, Amazon Echo, Google Nest Home, things
Right.
like that, where you can connect your devices around the home to make them accessible, whether it's lights, thermostats, doorbells, all that kind of stuff.
Nice.
So all sorts of options. And again, like we started off talking about, a lot of us use those kind of things.
Right.
And that's what's kind of nice. It doesn't have a stigma attached to it, and it can
Right.
be really helpful for everybody.
Right.
And as with the applications, in case I forget to say this, just some considerations that you do need to keep in mind. The cost, some are free, some may be expensive, or some may have paid. You have to pay for them, but they may have, a free light version where you don't get all the features, but some.
The
And
more you
then,
add to it,
yeah,
the more you pay. Yeah.
other considerations could be what you're trying to access it on, an Android versus, an Apple iOS kind of thing, computer tablet versus a smartphone.
Right.
And what I'm finding very frustrating, and I found that this morning when I was looking at some things, apps come and go sometimes.
You're right. You are absolutely right.
So yeah, I remember presenting on apps, and 2 weeks before I had my poster printed, I've had my poster printed 2 weeks before, and I went through all the apps, made sure they were still there. And in that 2 weeks, out of like the 10 apps I had, 2 or 3 were no longer there in that 2 weeks. So that can be frustrating. They're
Yeah.
just things to keep in mind.
Right. As things evolve, right?
Absolutely.
Come and go so quickly.
Yeah. And then I just wanted to talk about switches that can be used to access all sorts of things, from perhaps, electronic devices to toys, to appliances, things like that. And some of these are ones from our department. Some of them, are a little outdated, but what's nice is to know the options that are available. So this is an adjustable pressure pinch switch. So you connect it, and you can adjust how much pressure is required. So if somebody doesn't have a whole lot of pinch strength, you can have it where just a little bit of touch will activate the device. If somebody perhaps has a lot of movements and you want them to require a lot of pressure, to be sure that it actually was desired to be activated, you can increase the pressure required.
And what would you attach it to? What kind of devices?
It could be a toy, perhaps any kind of electronic device that has the accessibility with it.
Okay.
big red switch. You connect it to some of the devices that I just mentioned, and all you have to do is touch it and it'll activate the device. This the big blue joystick. There are 4 different switch outlets there, and depending on the direction you move the joystick, it will activate the device, that device connected to it. The button click switch. Again, you just hit the button and it'll activate it. Cell interrupter. So with these, you can take a, typical normal toy, and in many cases, that's battery operated, and in many cases, put this cell interrupter in there, and they have some base benefits, AA, AAA, C, D kind of battery. Put that in the battery compartment, and then this will kind of become the switch adapter, so you can kind of make it a switch toy.
Oh, okay.
And
Very
connect
cool.
one of these other devices to it.
Nice.
Interspersed in here are some communication devices as well. So this is the Cheap Talk 8 on gooseneck. So it kind of has it's on kind of a gooseneck kind of handle that you can twist and turn and hook to a wheelchair, table, whatever you'd like. And you can have pictures in there, and when you hit the button, it'll say what's been programmed to be in there. iBlink switch, this is one of those things that is definitely dated, but just to say there's switches that can be activated by the blink of an eye.
Nice.
You would kind of connect this to eyeglasses, and it would sense the blinking of the eye and activate the device. Finger isolation button. Oh.
Can I ask you, with the blinking, with the way technology is right now, do they have anything that's already in the computer system? Like easy access?
I believe, yes. I believe there are some computer program systems that you can get that you could kind of connect, and it would kind of follow your eyes. Yes, right. I'm glad you asked that.
Yeah.
And before I forget too, I know there are kind of sensors that you can get and connect to the computer, and so you could put it, on your forehead, on a hat, whatever you would like, on the center of your glasses, and it will sense kind of the movement of your head.
Right.
To direct it.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Yeah. I remember that.
Finger isolation button switch. Again, just hitting the button will activate it. Finger switch. This is nice because you can kind of put it on, I would say, any of your fingers and kind of bend it to best meet the needs of the person. High function activity center. This is just a fun toy that you can access by pulling on things, pushing down on things, and it'll light up, vibrate, play songs depending on what you activate. This is a gooseneck switch. And again, you can put it on a table, wheelchair, whatever it may be, and the person could activate it with their head, or if you have it down by their knee, they could move their knee or elbow, again, whatever works for them to activate the device it's connected to. This is a grip and puff switch. So right now it's connected to the puff, so the person can blow into it to activate the device. Or you can see there's different kinds of grips there. You could attach one of those grips to the device and the grip will activate it. And there's various grips that require different levels of strength and grip, so you can best meet the person's needs.
Nice.
Gumball switch, again, you just hit it to activate it. Head switch, you could put this, in a wheelchair, for example, and the person would just kind of hit it with their head to activate the device.
Okay.
Life breath switch, the person would kind of breathe into the device there, and it would activate the device. Microflex switch, this could be, I would say taped on anywhere the person has movement, maybe a muscle on the elbow or, the forehead, and it will activate the device.
Okay. So is that sensitive to it?
Yes, and with the ones with the boxes, you can adjust the sensitivity as well. So it's more or less sensitive depending on what you want.
Nice.
The motion switch, with this area there will pick up motion and activate the device. This is on the go 7-level communication board. So again, you can program various sayings and phrases into it. And the 7 level, depending on what you want, you could have just one thing programmed in there to make it so all they have to do is hit anywhere on that device and it will play it.
Right.
Up to kind of more complex things that you see in there where it could play, I think is that 28 different phrases.
Nice.
And some of these communication boards I'm showing to you can also be connected to switches or even toys
Okay.
as well. So when you hit the button, it'll say the phrase
Oh,
and activate the toy.
nice.
Pancake switch, a pretty common one, pretty easy to activate. You just press down. Pillow switch, it's nice and soft like a pillow.
Okay.
And you just kind of hit it, squeeze it, and it'll activate the device. Plate switch, it's almost at a little bit of a slant, and you just hit it and it will activate the device. Power link 4. So this you can connect 2 different things to it, and you can use it to activate, for example, lights, fans. I'm thinking of things that I've had it programmed into to show students. This one is also Bluetooth accessible.
Okay. Oh, that's
So
great.
some of the ones a little farther down that I'm showing you that are Bluetooth accessible, the switches, you can kind of connect it to that and have the switch to just hit that switch to activate the device it's connected to.
Nice.
What's also nice about some of these, you can put the setting on where it will only be activated if you're holding it down, almost like a drinking fountain.
Right.
Or you can have it where you hit it and you can let go and it will stay on until you hit it again, like a light. You
Okay.
don't want to have to keep holding
Right.
that down for the light to stay on. So you could have the setting where I think it's latched, where you hit it and it will stay on until you hit it again.
And you said you could have 2 functions attached to this.
Correct.
That's good. Okay.
Yep. And you can also have it set where you hit it and it will go off after whatever time you have put it on for, like, a minute, 10 minutes, whatever.
Nice.
Pressure switch, again, just by putting some pressure on that device, it will activate it. Sound switch, this just the voice will activate it, or any sound will activate it. String switch, you pull down the switch and it will activate the device. The switch modifier, I mentioned how you can have different settings where you have to hold it down or you can just hit it, let go, it'll stay on until you hit it again. This allows you to change those settings. If the device will only allow you to do one, it'll allow you to change it. This is the talkable 3. You can program 3 different sounds in there to communicate. Thumb switch, you just hit, activate it with the thumb. Tilt switch, this is largely, I think, used with the head, but you could theoretically put it wherever you would like, and that's a sensor there, and it will kind of sense the movement and activate the device.
Okay.
Just to show some fun toys that can be activated by switches, this is a waterfall toy. It plays music and has water going all the way down, and you can connect it to switches. Any of the switches I showed you really to activate that. Wobble switch. Again, you'll connect the device to the wobble switch, and then you can use the yellow wobble, I'll call it, hanging down to activate the device. And again, depending on the person's needs, you could activate it with your knee, arm, whatever works for that person. Mini cup switch. These are getting a little more current, where you can put color on there and just press the button and it will activate the device. Micro light switch is the same idea, just a little bit different shape. Mini beamer transmitter and receiver. These are some of the Bluetooth wireless kind of things that I was saying that you can connect to devices.
So that's also to any device.
To many of the devices, yes. And then the transmitter. And again, you would just have to hit the button. So you would connect this to the device. So I'm just using the example of a toy. You would connect this to the toy and it would be attached to the toy. And you connect the transmitter to the receiver. I don't have the receivers on here. Can this part be edited? Yeah. Yeah, no, I had it right. I'm gonna make sure I have this. Because yeah, you connect this to the device, like the toy. And then the transmitter, you pair this with that.
Okay.
And
That
when you
makes
hit the
sense. Yeah.
switch, it will activate the device that this is connected to.
Okay.
So you can get different sizes of the transmitter.
But these are really good because people can go off on their own to take a look at the different
Yeah.
devices to see what fits them best.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you just makes we can start here. You taking, I'm sorry, my door was shut, but my cat's almost snuck in. Yeah, you take the receiver and you compare it with the transmitter. And then when you activate the transmitter, the device will activate.
Right. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
it does.
And so you can get different kinds.
No, and it's Bluetooth accessible, so that's going to be easy for folks too.
Yes. Yes. And depending on what you get, you do have the ability to pair a couple things together, depending on the specific device. So there's a big beam transmitter, again, depending on the size and style you would like. This is the GoTalk 20 Plus. You can record all different phrases there at different levels. So, on level 1, you may have things related to food. On level 2, you may have things related to, games. Level 3, bathroom, toileting kind of things. And on the device, it's pretty easy to switch back and forth between those levels.
So with the communication devices that you're using here with the AT, are we working together with speech therapists when they're available?
Yeah, I definitely would encourage you to work in a team with the speech therapists. Yes, because they may be able to help provide some great recommendations. And I think that's where that collaboration is really important, because you may be able to talk about their physical abilities, and the speech and language pathologist can kind of really go into some of the best options perhaps for them.
I mean, it's a good area that you do the crossover, because I mean, in some of the areas that I provide services are rural areas, so we don't have speech therapists in those areas, or but it's hard to come by because of where they are. And so you might be the only provider out there.
Yeah. And there's lots of options depending on the needs of the person, their abilities, and different settings as well.
Right.
Sometimes you may want just a paper communication board that has pictures on it that you point to, because it's a loud environment and the person's not gonna be able to hear what you're trying to say. Other times you may want something a little bit more complex. Yeah.
Thank you.
And with this one, you can see the very top row is kind of separated across the different levels. Those will always stay the same. So if there's key things the person wants to say a lot, you can kind of program those into that level.
Right on the top. Okay.
Yeah. And there's sheets in here where you can put pictures, drawings, whatever you like, to make it easier to figure out what's on that particular square. The chin switch, I love this. You kind of wear it around your neck, and you can cut the tubing, to be the appropriate size for the person. And then you kind of activate the device with your chin.
Oh, really cool.
Yeah. And then this is the big candy corn proximity sensor switch. What's great about this, you don't even have to touch it. And that's why it's called and this isn't the only kind of proximity switch, but with a proximity switch, you don't actually have to touch it. It just kind of, when it senses that you're near it, it will activate. Yeah, and just to reinforce, these are just examples, not endorsing any product or company. There's always new things being developed. So I encourage you to, do your research, work with some of the people that I'll be talking about in a few minutes, to make sure that you have the latest and greatest.
No, I so appreciate that.
So where to purchase some of these things and funding. Many of these things can be found at medical supply stores, Home Depot, Lowe's, or similar kind of places, hardware stores. You'd be surprised what you can find there, as well as CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, those kinds of places. Amazon. Many of the things that I showed in that document, you can find on Amazon. I want to put in a plug for all these as well. I have found some amazing things at all these. Again, they have kind of frequent turnover. You kind of never know what you're going to get, but you can find some wonderful things there. I found all sorts of different knee supports, braces, cushions. I'm actually sitting on a cushion and have a back cushion right now from all these. So
Nice.
amazing what you can find. And then 3D printing. I believe you did an earlier podcast with my colleague, Dr. Chino Ingram, who's kind of leading the 3D printing efforts for our department and in our area. It's amazing what you can print with 3D printers. So that's another option. Many of the things that I've showed can be printed.
Nice. And with the 3D printing, it's almost kind of individualized to the client's needs as well.
Yes, you can make it very personalized. That's what's great about that.
Yeah.
And then many things you can do it yourself. I have a student project for my assistive technology class. We're using things they have around the home. We're spending no more than $5. They are to make an assistive technology device. And it's amazing what some of the students have made, different types of devices to hold a hairbrush. I mentioned the nail clipper out of wood and nail glued to it, nail clipper glued to it. We were talking about pets earlier.
Yeah.
I had students use different kinds of like size PVC pipings and made a long pipe that was attached to like a food scooper where the person could just put the food down the PVC pipe and it would go down into the bowl. Yeah. And you can get food bowls, water bowls that are raised up as well.
Right.
And all sorts of leisure things as well. I feel like we didn't talk a whole lot about leisure, but there's some great leisure things as well. And one of my favorite ones that a student has made through the years took some PVC pipes, pool noodles, and made like a square shape out of it that enables somebody, and she actually had somebody demonstrate this that has special different needs, kind of like a floating device that she made relatively. Nice. So all sorts of options there.
Very cool.
Because funding definitely can be a challenge. I think funding for the pediatric population is a little bit easier. It's a little bit easier to get things covered than for the adults, but it still definitely can be a challenge. And it's going to vary, based on insurance. From what I've been told, this is not my area of expertise. I just want to make sure I put that out there. But Medicaid can be pretty helpful in obtaining many of these things if you can demonstrate the need. But you definitely do have to justify it. For example, mobility devices like walkers, wheelchairs, things like that. You have to justify why, if you're trying to get a wheelchair, why a walker wouldn't work, or if you're trying to get a power wheelchair, why a manual wheelchair wouldn't work. Yeah. And then any of the features that you may want, like headrests or supports for the chair, why those are needed. You have to really justify every little thing. So that can be challenging. I'm
going through that process for that right now. Yeah, and like you said, every little portion of it, why do you need it? You have to justify.
Yeah. And sadly, in many cases, it can't be, to make things easier for the caregivers, parents, or whoever it may be. You really have to justify a medical need for it. And what that looks like will vary based on insurances. I do think many private insurances do kind of follow Medicare, Medicaid guidelines. And Medicaid too, I believe there's federal funds, but it's kind of state. Each state does it a little bit differently.
It's different.
Yeah. So it's going to vary based on the state that you're in. So I encourage you to research that. Fundraisers, definitely you can hold fundraisers at, church, synagogue, religious organizations, community organizations, maybe willing to help sponsor things. I've seen many, Facebook fundraisers, GoFundMe fundraisers as well. That could be options. Kiwanis, Lions Club, they may be also sources of support. And then there are grants out there as well that you can apply for that may be helpful. Perhaps like the Christopher Reeves Foundation may have some funds that you can apply for if you have, spinal cord related injury. For example, the Muscular Dystrophy Association may have some grants funding you can apply for, if you're impacted by that.
So basically, it's really good for the caregivers themselves also to kind of just browse the internet, really, for the different kinds of
Yes.
the grants that are available to families.
Yes. And I would also encourage you, if you're a family member, to reach out to others, that are trying to have things funded or that have had success in finding things funded, to find out what they have done. We can learn a lot from each other. So find out what's helped them and what they may be able to help give you some ideas and strategies.
That's so powerful what you said, because I've learned so much over the years from families. They'll
Yes.
come back and they'll say, hey, this is what I found out, and tell your other families. They're always
Yeah.
sharing that information, and that's
Yes.
great to kind of build up on that.
Yes, absolutely. And then just some overall considerations. Of course, cost is a consideration. Many of the things I showed are not terribly expensive. Some can be very expensive. So that process and the funding that you have available through insurance, or what you are willing and able to pay out of pocket. I think it's also important to keep in mind maintenance and the time, manpower that may require, as well as the costs.
Right.
And then just the usability. Is it functional and practical for the child, the family, caregivers, whoever may be involved with using it or helping the individual use it? Is it easily implemented into your daily life, or is it going to be a real challenge, struggle where it's not worth your effort and it's just going to sit in the closet?
That's, I think, something for families to think about, because if you buy too many things, can you use them all?
Yes. Yes.
Because you sometimes go into homes where they're like just too many. All parents are going to say, can we just not add one other thing right now?
Exactly.
Too
Exactly.
many items.
It's a lot to keep up with. So
Right.
just making sure that it's something that's realistic to use. And that's where the collaboration I'm going to go into on the next slide is really important. Particularly with the pediatric population, you need to look at, the ability of that device to accommodate growth.
Yeah.
As a child grows, up and out, is it going to be able to still be used or accommodate that? Is it can be able to be used in a variety of settings and contexts, school and home and, other places that you might live, work, and play in.
Right.
And if it's not, can you have multiple options? For example, the communication devices, can you have a basic, simple, picture board with pictures on it that the person can point to when they're in a louder setting on the community,
Right.
and then a more advanced one, or, for at home school, whatever it may be.
Right.
To your point, compatibility with other devices. Can these things be integrated together? And I'm thinking about, individual using a wheelchair. Can it be hooked up to? Can a wheelchair be connected with a, communication device?
Right.
And one thing I did want to point out, all those switches and things like that. Many of those can be used to operate, a power wheelchair, for example, on a communication board. And then I love assistive technology. It's amazing what's out there. I get very excited just thinking about the options and, sharing this with you all today. But you do want to make sure that, you're not impeding any potential ability for the child to grow. I'm saying child, but this would be true of any age, to develop skills and be able to do that on their own.
Right. A lot of the functions that you talked about, like you said, I can see that being used on the wheelchairs for them, because they, for mobility's sake, and then for them to function. We can see them in school and at home, and like you said, for leisure too.
Yeah.
Can just kind of add that in.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. And too, what's most important for the person. Maybe, I said, don't use that at the expense of skill development. You really want to work with the family caregiver. And if you're the family member, caregiver, child, think about what's most important to you and what you want to focus on, and use your time and energy to work on those. And perhaps some of this equipment can help you with some of those other things.
Right.
And then, think about that transition to adulthood. I've heard many horror stories where the person has all sorts of great resources, and then they reach, I think 21 is often the age, 18 or 21. Then it's like, bye, you're good, can't help you anymore.
Right.
So think about those kind of things and the next step past that, as well as things that you may need to help you be successful. If you're going into the workforce, going into school, whatever it may be, and your needs there, and how technology may be able to help with that.
The transitioning, and I know that worries a lot of families, like you said, when they hit 2021, then they're like, what are we going to do? And
Yeah.
like you mentioned, Dr. Ingram talked about that as well, because you got to plan
Mhm.
on what you
Yeah.
need,
Yes.
but
Mhm.
like you said, where maybe before it might have been harder for people to have access to the equipments and items, now you can buy it off Amazon if
Yes. Mhm. Yeah.
and Home Depot, you can go and exactly what you need.
Yeah. And the other nice thing too is, if you're working with, somebody transitioning into adulthood and living, independently or with
Mhm.
roommates, friends, what have you, there's all sorts of remote monitoring options as well that may make you feel a little safer, or be, and that individual as well, safer, or, know that they can more easily access you, and you can monitor what's going on, make sure they're doing okay.
Yeah, especially with kids, these children with special needs, more of them are going to college, which really makes me feel so happy, and they might be in their own dorm right now, like you said,
Yeah.
having roommates and stuff, and they can function and they can go out with their friends. So
Yeah.
just the quality of life
Mhm.
just improves so much more. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
And then collaboration. It is so important that you involve the child, the caregivers, family members, whoever that may be. If they are, hopefully they are working as needed with occupational therapists, therapy practitioners, physical therapy practitioners, speech and language pathologists, involve the whole team, so you can really make sure, you're working towards the same goals, that what you're doing is reinforcing each other, all that good stuff. And they can help, reinforce the use of the device. You can help reinforce the use of what they're recommending, things like that.
It's the child being involved. We always have them involved, but it's amazing, even with just color, like what
Mhm.
color do you want,
Mhm.
because the other one's going to be using it,
Yep.
it's
Yep.
amazing. And they'll tell you, like, my favorite color is purple. I want
Yep.
that, just the basic stuff of that,
Mhm.
the small things matter too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, as you said, color, pink or purple for me.
All right, there you
Purple.
go.
Yeah. So I mean, that really can make or break something as well.
Right.
So, and even just going along with the color, even just the appearance of something, they may like, no, I would never use that. I don't want people seeing me use that.
Yes, especially when kids are getting older, you see that,
Mhm.
and they're like, no,
Mhm.
I don't want to use it. And you're like, but you really need it. And then you
Yeah.
find out because, well,
Mhm.
it's because of the way it looks.
Yeah. Yep.
And they're like, I'm growing up, I don't want, I don't want
Yeah.
my friends to see it. So just
Yeah.
things to consider. And then if you can have the child in the process, they can help problem solve with you
Yes.
because
So
you're showing it to them.
yes,
Yeah.
because I mean, we spent what, hour or so together. I
Yeah.
mean, this is just a brief snippet. There's so much that you can go into. So,
We'll be happy to get you back again.
yeah, I'd love to. And then, involve too, schools, with somebody, the workforce, employers, to find out what options they may have already, or, what they may be willing or able to provide, what they're willing and able to let the individual use. So I think that collaborative effort can help you get the best, determine what the best options are.
Nice.
And I would just,
And just before you go to the next slide, with the employers, that's also really interesting because, when they become teenagers and they want to go out and work,
Mhm.
if employers know what adaptations, and I know more and more, they're more ADA compliant, and they are really trying to help out,
Yes.
and we just need to just let them know, the employers. So I'm just gonna, tell you that if parents are watching this, let the occupational therapist know, like, which areas that maybe you're considering getting your kids, to work in or
Mhm.
to help out,
Mhm. And if you're a practitioner, OT, PT practitioner, speech and language pathologist, I just really implore you to really work with the caregivers, the child, take, their goals, ideas into account to help and have them be as involved in the process as possible, show them the options, work with them, determine what the best option is, and don't just force what you feel the best option is on them.
Yeah.
And then some resources I have to put in, apply for occupational therapy,
Awesome.
of course, and all my other healthcare professional colleagues as well. They can really help you determine what some of the best options may be in collaboration with you. And then HTP centers, assistive technology centers. It's federally mandated that each state has assistive technology centers. They're going to look a little different depending on what state you're in and how they run. I'm here in North Carolina, so I can speak to what the North Carolina Center has. They're all over the state. And in North Carolina, what you're able to do if you're a citizen in North Carolina is go to one of the sites, and they will have all sorts of different technology out that you can look at. You can see the options that are available, try them out. In many cases, you're able to borrow them for a week or two. Try them out, see if they're going to work for you, or perhaps they're not going to work for you so well. You know, and they can really provide you training as well, and what you might need, and all the devices that I talked about.
Is this for families as well? They can go in?
Yes, this is for families, you know, assistive technology device users, clinicians. It's a great resource.
Awesome.
So I would encourage you to look it up for your state and contact them to see what they may need from you to come to their site. If you have to make an appointment, if you can just walk in, whatever it may be.
That's
So
wonderful to know.
there's all sorts of you know, great resources here. You can find out the centers. These are ones in North Carolina.
So many different areas.
Yes, all over the state.
Wonderful.
And I will say, at least here in Winston-Salem, I've been to the one in Raleigh and Charlotte and Winston-Salem. Some of them may have different focuses. Like I believe the one in Greensboro has more pediatric kind of things. So yeah, I would, you know, look online and find them. There's also, at least in the North Carolina site, there's videos showing some of the assistive technology devices. You can get a tour of it, virtual tour of it. That's what that Beam tour is. So all sorts of great options there.
And below you also had like funding resources too.
So they will not help you purchase anything, but they do have some potential, they can give you some potential resources that you can pursue for funding.
That's great. Yeah.
So wonderful resource there. I take my students every summer, and it's just so exciting to see what's there and the new things that are available. That's
access loans for vehicles that you have down there. And I know, you know, families that probably will need that as well.
Yep. So all sorts of great options.
This is wonderful.
Yeah. So and again, each state has it. It'll look a little different from state to state, but some wonderful resources that many people don't know about.
Yeah.
And
I mean, this
then,
is like yeah, sorry.
Oh no.
No, I was gonna say that's so nicely tied with, you know, equipments that they might need. They think, oh, this is wonderful, and then they allow them to try it out too, which makes it even better. Right.
And that's what's great. You can try it out and make sure that it works for you before you you know, you spend the money on it.
Nice. Very nice.
And then this was made during the summer 2020 when everything was on lockdown. I do have I've added to it a little bit. I do have a YouTube channel that I made for my students demonstrating some of the equipment. So
that's wonderful.
So yeah, some of those switches and things, pretty much everything I showed would be in there. But yeah, you can.
So they can click on it and have access to watching it too.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
And obviously that's the one I'm most familiar with since I made it. You can find other videos as well online.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
No problem. And then there's my contact information if there's ever any questions I can answer or any resources that I can provide.
Yes, thank you so much. And that's what I was going to say. You know, if there are any added questions that you have or inquiries that you have, please reach out. You know, and I'm sure you're going to be really happy to. You can either reach me or directly, because you have the information, to Dr. Collins. We'll be very happy to answer your questions. Thank you so much for taking all this time to share with us the valuable, you know, your valuable knowledge. of all the different equipments that we have. Yeah.
Oh, no problem. It's been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you or others may have.
No, I think you just did. And I think, as I was looking through the items that you had, it was like, how do they have access to them? And, the funding, and it's so great that you tied it up at the end with the resource itself,
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah. And if we do have any questions, I'll forward that to you soon. So thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.